This call is now being
Good morning, teacher.
Hello.
Good morning, all of you.
Good morning.
Write your name in chat box.
Good morning, teacher.
Very good morning. Okay, last time in last lecture, what did we learn?
Lesson number 12.
Okay, lesson number 12. And lesson number 12 only two paragraphs are remaining. So in the story we have learned that narrator name Mr. Danda. Mr. Danda visited one hill station, and he stayed at private guest house, and at there Mr. Danda means narrator met one family, Mr. and Mrs. Bandari. And when narrator was talking with Mr. and Mrs. Bandari, narrator saw a little girl, probably 8 years old. So when narrator saw the girl, and the girl was hiding behind the settee. Please, I am telling summary of the story or summary. So listen carefully. So the girl was hiding behind the settee, and when narrator called her, she did not come to the narrator. She stood there like statue, no any movement. Narrator called her second time, but then also girl did not come to the narrator, but she started crying and run away. When narrator saw this that the girl is crying, narrator felt very bad that because of me a girl is sad. And then when narrator looked at Mr. and Mrs. Bandari, they were also looking sad. And then Mr. and Mrs. Bandari said, sorry that our daughter could not come to you because our daughter is deaf and dumb. In last lecture also I explained this meanings deaf and dumb. What is the meaning of deaf and what is the meaning of dumb?
Good morning, sir.
Unable to speak and unable to hear.
Very good, very good. Mukhi Azhar, very good. Deaf means unable to hear and dumb means unable to speak. Very good. So when Mr. and Mrs. Bandari, they said our daughter is deaf and dumb, that's why our daughter did not come to you. So here narrator had one idea. Narrator thought that whenever any new guest enter the guest house, same problem happens. And Mr. and Mrs. Bandari have to say each and every guest that our daughter is deaf and dumb. So narrator gave one idea. Narrator said to Mr. and Mrs. Bandari that take some chits and write this message that our daughter is deaf and dumb. Don't call her directly. Give some time to her and then she will come to you. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Bandaris, they have written this message in one paper, and whenever any new guest enter the guest house, they used to hand over that envelope cover. Which cover? Message cover that our daughter is deaf and dumb. The idea worked very well. The idea worked very well, and Mr. and Mrs. Bandaris were also happy.
Good morning,
They were
sir.
happy. Yes. Mr. and Mrs. Bandaris, they were also happy that now our daughter does not have any problem, and we do not have to say each and every guest that our daughter is deaf and dumb. The idea worked well. Now one day, one new visitor would suppose to come to the guest house. Early in the morning, narrator Mr. Danda, narrator. So Mr. Danda was planning to go to picnic. To go to picnic. So Mr. Danda talked to Mr. Bhandari that please arrange some food for me in lunch. I am going outside, so please. And Mr. Bhandari was very busy in work. So narrator asked him that why are you busy? Is there anything? So Mr. Bhandari said, yes, yes, our new guest is going to come to our guest house. That's why I am busy in preparation. And then just after a few minutes, the new guest arrived. And the new guest, when he arrived, he was looking so dirty because of journey. His hair, his neck, his clothes, all looks dirty, but he was so cheerful person, means smile was there on his face. And then Mr. Bhandari asked him, I think you are Mr. David. So Mr. David, a new visitor, did not give answer through mouth, but he gave answer through sign. He gave answer through his head. He moved his head up and down, means it is the sign of yes. And then Mr. Bhandari takes him to the guest house. Now in the guest house, Mr. David was sitting on a sofa and writing something in register, that coming time and going time, that register means entry. When he was writing in register, he found the cover, envelope. Which cover? The cover in which message was written. Which message? That our daughter is deaf and dumb, that message. So when Mr. David was reading the message, just at that time Mrs. Bhandari came. And Mrs. Bhandari came and asked her husband, Mr. Bhandari, that is this our new guest, Mr. David? So Mr. Bhandari said, yes, yes, he is our new guest, Mr. David. And then Mrs. Bhandari comes towards Mr. David and asks him that did you face any problem in journey? So Mr. David gave answer through his head. Then Mrs. Bhandari asked him that what do you want? Do you want to take tea or do you want to take bath? So here Mr. David rubbed his shoulders and it was the sign that he wanted to take bath. But he did not give answer through his mouth, only answer through his head. And then Mr. David opened the cover and started reading the message. After reading the message, Mr. David started moving here and there. And Mr. David wanted to meet the little girl Pramodni. And when Mr. and Mrs. Bhandari, they saw that Mr. David wanted to meet our daughter Pramodni, they felt very bad. Why? Because Mr. David is the first guest who did not follow the instruction. And then after reading means Pramodni at that time was playing in the courtyard in the garden. So Mr. David goes there and meet Pramodni. Now after some time when Mr. and Mrs. Bhandari and narrator they all came to the veranda, means balcony, they saw that Mr. David and Pramodni they are sitting together. Pramodni was sitting in Mr. David's lap. Last time also I explained this meaning lap. And Mr. David was showing flowers to Pramodni. Pramodni became so happy after meeting Mr. David. Yes, and they were totally surprised that Mr. David, we were thinking that Mr. David is a bad person, rude person, but really Mr. David is a good person. And then Mr. David and Pramodni, they both were keeping their hands and walking together, and then Pramodni comes to her mother and laugh with joy. So happy. She was so happy, and then Mr. and Mrs. Bhandaris, they realized that Mr. David is a good person. And then later, they knew that Mr. David is also deaf and dumb. Means Mr. David was like Pramodni, same as deaf and dumb. But then also Mr. David became a successful person. And at last, Mr. David put one offer. Mr. David said that I have opened one school for disabled children. Disabled children means children having problem in their parts of body, like deaf, dumb, not hands, not leg. They are called disabled. So Mr. David said, I have opened school specially for deaf and dumb children. And then Mr. and Mrs. Bhandaris, they were so happy when they heard that Mr. David has opened a school for these type of children. And then Mr. David and then Mr. and Mrs. Bhandaris, they requested Mr. David to give admission to Pramodni in his school. And Mr. David agreed. Mr. David said, yes, Pramodni is my first student and I am so happy. And then Mr. and Mrs. Bhandari is also uh, relaxed that now no any tension of Pramodni because Mr. David is a good person and a kind person. So here lesson we have completed. Okay. Now let me ask question answers.
Sir, grammar? Yeah,
Grammar,
English.
English question answer.
Okay, sir.
Sir, we want to write this.
At present,
Sir,
will you pay attention?
sir,
I
screenshot
will
on.
I will keep I will send PDF file in group. Okay. So don't
Lesson
worry.
number 11 now.
Lesson number 12.
मुंह में
Okay, meaning glossary miniature. Miniature means tiny. Then back on to her means signal to the girl to come towards him. Vaguely means slightly. Repetition means nervousness. Excursion means a short journey that you take for pleasure, means like picnic. Unkempt means dirty. Vitality means enthusiasm. Disconcerted means unsettled. Dean means showing willingness. Darted made a sudden quick movement. Mildly means not showing any strong feelings. Confronted means presented itself. Queer means strange. Render means provide service or help. Then, how does the narrator describe the girl when he sees her for the first time? What did he find odd about her? Okay, so the narrator describes the girl, how many years old? 8 years old, who was slightly built and hiding behind the settee, means sofa. She was in jeans and a loose jersey, means sweater, and wore a pair of boots, means shoes. She looked like a small jungle queen. What was odd about her was that she was behaving timidly, means not normal behavior, and trying to avoid the narrator. Avoid means ignore the narrator. What did the narrator suggest the girl's parents could do to save her from humiliation? Did the suggestion work well? Means idea of narrator. The narrator suggested that the host and hostess at the guest house hand over pieces of paper to their guest. Here, host and hostess means Mr. and Mrs. Bhandari. Host and hostess means Mr. and Mrs. Bhandari. At the guest house means narrator's idea that Mr. and Mrs. Bhandari's hand over pieces of paper to the guest, new guest, bearing the message means writing the message that their daughter could neither speak nor hear. Means our daughter is deaf and dumb. They were requested not to upset her by approaching her too soon and instead were asked to give her time to make their acquaintance. Means here, this is the message. Our daughter is deaf and dumb. Don't come directly, don't call directly to her. Give some time to our daughter. The idea worked very well. Occasionally, the guest asked the parents sympathetic questions, but the child was spared any embarrassment. Okay, sometimes only guest ask some sympathetic questions, means some questions that make sad, but Pramodini was saved from Embarrassment means feeling shame. What did the narrator notice about the new guest? The narrator noticed that the new guest was about 25 and that he looked untidy after his journey. Untidy means dirty after his journey. His hair, necktie means neck part, and shoes were all shabby. Shabby means dirty, but he had a cheerful face, happy face, and his jet black eyes sparkled with life. Means his eyes color, black eyes sparkled means very shining, sparkled with life means joy. Why did the Bandaris think that David was rude? Rude means very bad in behavior. The Bandaris thought that David was rude because he did not bother to reply properly to their polite inquiries about his journey. Because when Bandaris asked Mr. David about journey, so Mr. David was not giving answer through mouth but showing only action, and that thing Mr. Bandaris did not like. And when he read the note about Pramodni, instead of complying, he rushed to meet the girl. And after reading the message that Pramodni is deaf and dumb, instead of complying, means instead of following the message, following the instruction, Mr. David rushed to meet the girl, means meet Pramodni. What was David's reaction upon reading the chit? David's reaction on reading the chit was to dart out in search of Pramodni. Dart out means search, to go out in search of Pramodni. How did David's arrival change Pramodni's life? Means David's arrival, when David came, Pramodni's life changed. How? So David's arrival changed Pramodni's life. For a start, she was happy and laughed and danced with joy, means with happiness. David, who was deaf and dumb himself, was starting a school for people like Pramodni, and she would be his first pupil. Means Pramodni would be first pupil. Pupil means student, first student. He explained that later she would be able to lead almost as normal a life as those who had the powers of hearing the speech. And Mr. David explained to Mr. and Mrs. Bandaris that your daughter will also live a normal life after acquiring a knowledge. Now read these lines. I vaguely felt I had wronged her and her parents. What wrong does the narrator refer to here? The narrator refers to the wrong he feels he has done by talking to the girl when she could not hear or speak. That thing narrator did not like. Why did he feel sorry about the act? So he felt sorry that he had upset his host and the little girl. Use vaguely in a sentence of your own. Make your own sentence. So I vaguely means slightly recall the girl's face but do not remember her name. Second, read this line. And suddenly, like the sound of a gun exploding, the shrill animal like laughter of Pramodni pierced the air. Why does the narrator describe Pramodni's laughter as animal like? So Pramodni is not used to interacting with people, and once she starts laughing, doesn't know how to restrain her laughter. Thus, it sounds wild
સર અવાજ
and
કપાઈ કપાઈને
animal like. Yes? What
અવાજ
happened?
કપાઈને આવે છે.
You check your network, please. You check your network. Here, I think no any problem from my side. Who made Pramodni laugh? This answer you must know. Come on, give answer. Who made Pramodni laugh?
ડેવિડ
Very good. Mr. David, the new
પ્રમોદની
guest, made Pramodni laugh. How did her parents react to what they saw in the courtyard? So Pramodni's parents were
પ્લેઇંગ
filled with wonder and amazement, means surprised. It had been years since they had heard their daughter laugh the way she was laughing with David. Means first time in 8 years. Pramodni was 8 years old. So in 8 years life, first time Pramodni laughed loudly with David. Okay, now one by one paragraph you have to read. Okay. Yes. Who will read first?
સર આઈ એમ રીડ
Who? Name?
સર લખાણી ફરાન
Okay. Read only one paragraph. Huh?
ઓકે સર I had recently the very pleasant experience of staying at a at, at a private guest house in one of the hill resorts. The hostess, her husband, and the little daughter proved to be the center of attraction to me. I was completely won over by the family from the moment I arrived. It appeared as if I had known Mrs. Bhandari, the landlady, and her husband for years.
Okay. Then who is the next?
Abbasli Govade.
Okay, go on. Read second paragraph.
While chatting with the two of them up on my arrival, I became aware
That
of the
became.
sitting bolt girl hiding behind the settee. The must have been about 8. She was in jeans and in her
Lose.
loose jerseys and pair
Jersey.
of jersey and pair of boots looked a miniature jungle
Miniature.
queen, but she was behaving behaving
Behaving.
behaving a bit too timidly for one and was trying to avoid me.
Okay, very good. Then next one. Who
Nakuin
is there?
Muhammad Muntazar.
Bakani Mohammed?
Nakuin Muhammad Muntazar.
Okay, Nabi Mohammed. Read please.
I could help
I could not.
slimming. I could not help slimming. I said that she was starting at me.
Staring.
I
Staring at me.
staring at me. I said, "What's your name?" And beckoned
Beckoned.
to her to come to me. The girl became immediately self-conscious, shook her head and stood when she was. I called once more. Hello, come here. Here, my dad.
Here. Okay, the next one.
Sir, I.
I who? Abadiya Zian not there?
Sir, હું વાંચું બસ.
Give chance to others, beta. Rasbariya Mehndi,
Yes,
read please.
she built any
She
soft cat
blush.
for her too hard. After a second, she ran out. I saw tears in her eyes. Scroll down. Sir.
Okay, continue. Read.
I suddenly, because our and forever was in the room and turning to the look at the machine, I discovered that both had a painfully look at the face. Mr. Pandras scared the army, his wife, and said that apology. I sorry, Mr. Randai. See, our daughter cannot hear and nor speak. That why she did come to you.
Okay. Next. Who is there?
સર હવે કોઈ નથી હું વાંચું સર હું વાંચું લાખાણી ફળાને લે સર એનો વારો આવી ગયો
You are not. Wait, let me see. Let me check. 19 students are there. Nurani Mohammad Taki.
સર
Read please. When I am asking, then why are not giving answer? Read please.
સર પહેલાથી ને
I vaguely felt.
યસ સર Sultan
Okay, your voice is not coming properly. Your voice is cutting. Wait. And who is there? Next one.
I.
Mukhi Azhar. Mukhi Azhar. Mukhi Azhar, are you listening? Mukhi Azhar.
Sir, not listening. ऐसे लाखानी
Gadiya
और आवाज है ना બધા
Charani Mehdi Hasan.
Yes,
Read please.
I really felt I had wronged her and her parents. It did not take me long to see that this was a situation the poor parents had to put up with almost daily. For every day, one or two guests left and new ones came along to save the child from such repeated humiliation. I one day suggested something to the Vandaris which the parents, after some trepidation, agreed to try. We decided to have bits of paper typed and to hand over one of these sheets duly sealed in a cover to every new visitor as soon as he or she entered the guest house. The text of the sheet ran, "Our daughter is deaf and dumb. You may hurt her by trying to be friendly too soon, as the can neither understand nor reply to your kind words. You are requested to please give her time to approach you and make your acquaintance. Thank you."
Okay, very good. Okay. Now, who is there? Next one.
સર હું વાંચું
Then, who is Haryani Reza?
સર હું વાંચું
Meghani Mohammed. Meghani
Yes,
Mohammed, you
sir.
read please.
Yes, sir. May I read
Meghani,
करूं?
Meghani Mohammed. Meghani Mohammed.
The idea worked well every
Even
by one by one
beyond
beyond our explanation
expectation.
expectation through a few scientific
So, what happened?
sympathetic question were still put to the parents. The sir પછી આગળ કરો.
Yes.
Poor child was
Poor,
spared. Poor child was
child, poor child.
spared. Later, the girl slowly began to be friendly with many of guests. The Bandaris. Bandaris
Bhandaris,
few
Bhandaris, Bhandaris.
Bandaris few relieved
Okay, okay,
relieved
okay, 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 beta. Okay. Time is not there now. Your next lecture is going to start. So, okay, now lesson number 12 PDF file I will send you. You have to write in your parent.
Okay, sir. Sir, મારે present કોડ દેની હું થોડોક મોડો join થતો તો.
Okay, okay.
Sir, bye bye.
Okay, Khuda Hafiz.
Goodbye, sir.
Peace.
Bye, bye.
Roll number 44
Sir, bye bye.
present.
This
Khuda
one is
Hafiz.
the
Okay.
Sir, roll number 44 present.
Yes,
Sir,
please.
roll number 14 present.
Present, present.
Okay, sir. Bye bye.
Okay, Khuda Hafiz.